Hello friends, and welcome to this crochet tutorial where I'm going to show you how to make the crowned heart plushie. It has 24mm eyes, a little crown that we will sew on so that it doesn't fall off. The majority of the heart is no sew. The only thing we're going to sew up is the bottom so that the stuffing doesn't come out, and sew the mouth on. I think you're going to find this to be a cute little project. I used blanket yarn in the making of this. Of course, you can use any type of yarn you wish. You can even turn it into a little keychain holder. I made plenty of them. They are very addicting. So, come join me and let's make these crowned heart plushies together. The materials and the tools we'll be using to make our little crowned heart plushie. Let's start off first with our 7mm crochet hook. This particular hook is by Clover. I really recommend it because it works great with blanket yarn. We also have a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, stitch marker. Here I've used 24mm black eyes with a safety backing. I'm also using, these are 4 24mm eyes. It's a round disc that has been cut out, and we're going to place it so that the side comes out of the eye. We'll be using just a little bit of black. The black is for the mouth. The red is for the crown, and the variegated is for the body. All of these yarns are by Bernat Blanket Yarn. I'm going to start off by working the crown first. So let's loosen up a bunch of yarn from a ball or the skein of yarn that you're using. I do this so that I can maintain proper tension while making the stitches. So with a really short tail, let's place a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to chain 15. 1, 2, 3. Continue until you have 15 chains. Please pause your video. After completing 15 chains, make sure that it is not twisted so that you see the little V's on the top. You'll notice that the back is with a different look. So create a circle, place your hook into that first chain, yarn over, and pull through both loops on the hook. Chain 1, and then rotate the chain towards you as it's aiming down. Into our first chain, 1 single crochet. We're going to go under the bottom part of this chain, so we're actually crocheting over 2 parts of the chain because usually there's 3. Okay. We also want to bring our tail over and crochet over that. So after we've placed our first single crochet in, let's chain 2. We are going to make what is called a picot. A picot gives a little point to the top of our stitch. So after chain 2, you're going to see the chain or the top of the stitch. Insert your hook through the front loop of it and through the front loop of the body of the stitch. Pull your yarn through and then pull it through the loop on your hook. You see how it creates just a little point? Okay, don't forget to bring your tail so you can crochet over that. In the next 2 stitches, 1 single crochet each. Okay, chain 2, 1, 2, and then place your hook through that top front loop and the front loop of the body. Pull that yarn through and through the loop on your hook. See how we're getting like a little crown look? Okay, we're going to continue this around 2 single crochets. Remember to carry your tail. So here's 1 and 2. Now before I move on, I'm going to cut this tail because I've already gone over about 5 stitches, and that'll help keep it in place so it won't fall out. Then chain 2, 1, 2, the hook through the front loop and the front loop of the body, pull the yarn through both and on the hook. Okay, so we have 3 completed. We're looking for a total of 8 chain 2 picots. Let me show you one more time, and then we're going to pause our video. So here's our first single crochet. Here's our second single crochet, chain 2, through the front loop and the front loop of the body of the stitch, yarn over, pull through both loops and the loop on your hook. So here we have 4. Continue around until you get to the last stitch, and I'll meet you there. Please pause your video. Well, I guess my counting is off. We only have 7 picots. So you should have 1 chain left, single crochet into that 1 chain, and then slip stitch right here into the first one. Let's cut a tail approximately 18 inches long. The tail will be used to sew it to our little heart. And what I like to do before I move on to my next step is I want to go ahead and place the tail down to the bottom where our chain stitch is. So I'm going to go over the top through some stitches here. I'm going to pull it all the way down. So here's our little crown. Right, let's move on to the body. We will be starting to use our stitch marker, so I have mine readily available. I would like for you to leave about a 6-inch tail, and then we're going to start off with a magic circle. Not too tight on that first chain. We're going to be placing 12 single crochets into our magic circle. You want to keep them loose, so that way when we tighten the tail, it'll go through all of the stitches. So I have 1, 2, 3. Please continue until you have 12. Please pause your video. After you have your 12th one, snug it up just a little bit so that that last stitch is not too long. Pinch those last few stitches with your finger and thumb and pull your tail. Do not pull it so tight that it'll actually break the circle that is made. Okay, so let's pull this back a little bit, and this will be our first stitch. Let's go ahead and place 1 single crochet into our first stitch, and let's not forget to mark it. Our next stitch will have 2 single crochets in it. That is known as an increase, and this will be the repeat for our row. Single crochet, increase. So let's single crochet and increase into the next stitch. Continue around with this repeat. The last stitch before the stitch marker will have an increase. Please pause your video. Our next row, we will do 18 single crochets around, which means 1 single crochet per stitch. So I've placed my first one in and stitch marked my first stitch. So I have 1, 2, 3, continue till you have 18. I'll meet you there. You will notice that after you've completed, you will have a little cup. This is okay. Now, the tail that we're going to leave for this is so that way when we join them together, there's going to be 3 stitches that it's going to cover. We're going to use single crochets. So let's leave an 18-inch tail. Go ahead and cut it. And then what we're going to do is pull that tail through that last stitch and tighten it up. You can remove your stitch marker. And if your tail for your magic circle shows signs of opening, I'm going to show you how to reinforce your tail. So let's get our tapestry needle out. Okay, we see it's coming out through this way, so we're going to continue going in the same direction, going into the middle of the stitches. So we can go around and then tighten it up and make it secure. Okay, on the last couple of stitches here, let's drop a loop. We'll go through that loop and tighten it up. Okay, if you like, you can cut it approximately 1 inch from the end, and this one is ready for the first half. This is the first top that we have. Let's move on to our second top. The second top is going to be made the same way, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker. We're going to start off with our magic circle and place 12 single crochets into our magic circle. Please pause your video and we'll continue on. I have closed my ring, placed my first stitch with my stitch marker. My next stitch will be the increase. So we will have the same increase as before. 1 single crochet, 1 increase. We're going to do this a total of 6 times around, and we will have 18 single crochets at the end of this row. At the end of this row, we're going to do 18 single crochets around. When we get to the end, do not cut your yarn. Don't forget to tighten up your magic circle. Okay, so now we're going to join our two hearts, or our two tops. So we stopped here. This one was where we stopped on our first one. So this is our first one. This is our second one. We stopped here, so we want to pick up right here into this first stitch. Oh, and have your yarn behind, right up here. Okay, insert your hook on the first one, the next stitch, drop a loop, make sure everything's snug, and finish that single crochet. Let's mark this as our first stitch of the row. Okay, so here we have one. We want to do 15 single crochets around. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Notice how everything wants to get tangled up. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, you will have 3 left over from this first half. Okay, now let's move the tail. We don't want to cut this yet. This is what's going to help sew the hole closed. So we want to come back over here, and this is our second tail. This is what we haven't worked on yet. So here's our first stitch. So we want to count over 3. 1, 2, and 3. And now into the fourth one. Let me count that again because I had to move my yarn. 1, 2, 3, and into this fourth one here, I'm going to insert my hook, okay, and do a single crochet. Okay, yes, you will have a large gap here, but this is what we're going to use to close it off. But let's finish this row first, and we're going to do a couple more rows before we finish off this opening in the middle. So here we have 1 that we started onto the second one, so we're going to do a total of 15. So here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, here's 14, and here's number 15. You should have 30 single crochets around, okay, and remember we still have this whole opening right here. Now if you want, let's go ahead and enlarge the loop, okay, and I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to insert it here and across. And I'm going to take that yarn and I'm going to pull it through both of those places so I can start with a loop on my hook. Okay, now I'm going to go through the top of that third one and the top of the third one here. So I'm picking up 4 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is actually the top stitches of 2 of them. I'm going to pull that through and finish off with a single crochet. I'm going to go to the second one, pull it through, single crochet. The third one. Now even though there's only 3 I'm going to do the fourth one anyway to make sure that that little tiny hole is also closed as well. So we're going to do a total of 4 single crochets. Once you get to that last one, tighten your stitch up, pull the loop through, tighten it up, and as we turn it over, we have single crocheted our hole closed. Okay? Now we can take the excess and we can cut it off and it'll be out of our way. All right, now remember we have 30 that we have just completed. We're going to do 2 rows of 30. Do not forget to mark the beginning of your row. So here's 1. Okay, so you can go 30 all the way around and then 30 all the way around again. Please do that and I'll meet you in just a minute. So please pause your video. So for this row, after completing the 2 rows, we're going to add our arms. So let's place our first single crochet in the row. And let's add 5 more, 1 per stitch, for a total of 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now to make the arms, we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You notice that after I pinched this, or I pinched after crocheting 2 chains. Into this 3rd chain, we're going to place 3 half double crochets. So to make a half double crochet, place your finger on the loop, yarn over, into that 3rd chain, pull up a loop, yarn over through all 3 on the hook. Let's do that 2 more times. And this will make a small little ball when we join it all together. Okay, so enlarge the loop and then insert the hook into the first stitch. Grab the loop that you enlarged and tighten it onto your hook and pull it through that first loop. It makes it look like a little ball. Okay, we have 2 chains right here. We're not going to go through them, we're going to go over them. So take your hook and go under the chain and pull up a loop, 1 single crochet. Let's do it one more time for 2 single crochets. And here's our little arm. Okay, go back to where you see our last single crochet before the chain. We're going to go into the next stitch and place our next single crochet. Okay, we're going to continue adding single crochets for a total of 19. So here we have 1, 2, 3. Continue until you have 19 and you'll be stopping over here. After 19, you'll notice that it's not halfway, it's forward a few stitches. We're going to do the same thing again, so let's chain 5. So after 2 chains, go ahead and pinch that second one and chain 3, half double crochet into the 3rd chain. We're going to place 3 into that same chain. So here's 1, 2, and 3. Enlarge your loop, take your hook out and go into the first stitch, the beginning of the row right here. Insert your hook into that loop and tighten it up, and then pull the loop through that stitching. Come over here to the side chain. We're going to go under and place single crochets on top of it. Here's one, and here's two. Okay, find your last stitch. The next stitch, we're going to be placing our first one here. We're going to add a total of 5 for 5 stitches across. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is what we should have so far. So moving on to our next row, let's place our first single crochet in. Okay, we're going to do 3 across. 1, 2, 3. In our next stitch, it will be covering 2 stitches. We're going to do an invisible decrease. We're going to pick up the front loop. Well, if you look at the top, you have a back loop and a front loop. We're going to pick up the front loop of the next 2 stitches, and this will make it so that it looks like one single crochet covered those 2 stitches. So we picked up those 2, drew up a loop, and finish it off. And it looks like it blends right in nicely, doesn't it? Okay, we have one more left, so 1 single crochet. We're going to pull our arm forward, oops, and take note. Here's our last stitch, here's our arm, and here is our next stitch. We want to pick up that 1 stitch. That's number 2. So this is number 1. We did 1 here, 1 here, 1 more time for 3, and then our next stitch will be a decrease. Okay, let's repeat that sequence. 1, 2, 3, decrease. 1, 2, 3, decrease. Keep repeating it. I'm staying with you because when we get to the next arm, we want to make sure that we get it right. Okay, so there's 3. Here's our next decrease. All right, let's do it again. Here's 1, 2, 3. Funny how that worked out, huh? Okay, so here's our decrease in the last 2 stitches before the chain 5. Sometimes it wants to play games with you. No, no, don't pick me. Well, we're going to pick you anyway. So here's, I got the 2 loops from those front 2 loop stitches. Okay, now we're going to go behind the arm. We want to find that last stitch right here. So we're going to go behind it, pick up, here's our first of 3, 1, 2, 3, and here's our decrease. At the end of this row, we have completed 24 single crochets, which means we have decreased it by 6 stitches. So the next 2 rows under this will be of 24 single crochets per row. Do not forget to mark your first stitch of each row. So let's do two rows around. Now that we've gotten this far, we need to place our eyes in before the hole in the bottom gets too small. Okay, so let's bring it around to the front and bring our eyes over. Okay, so for these little things, I want, if I put it right back here, it'll be just like that. I would like for it to show a little bit more. So what I do is I cut a little notch so that the center is actually off just a little bit. Now, if you've been ordering eyes from AliExpress, these come with the kawaii eyes. I don't usually use them, but they're nice to have. If you need one, you can always take and see how it's the same size as the eye. You can draw a circle around, and you can use fabric, you can use felt, you can use pretty much anything. But I had a lot of these kawaii eye covers, so I just went ahead and used it. But I went ahead and cut the excess out. On the back of these, you'll notice that they have little spikes. And those spikes is designed to help hold it into the fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to pull it over. And those little spikes are going to dig into the fabric. So I'm going to punch it down into the fabric so it won't go nowhere. And this way I have this little excess hanging over. Okay, so I'm going to do that to both of them. So I just pull it over and then put it into the spike. This one's a little bit more than the other one. Let's see. Maybe I didn't pull it far enough. There we go. Okay, so what we want to do is, here's our arm. We want to go up 1, 2, and over. And then since we're on that row, let's find out what row we're on. We're on this row right here. Whoops, and it fell out, didn't it? Let's see, if we brought it down, yeah, just one more looks good. Okay, now I know the camera's not really showing the glittery part of the eye, but it does stick out kind of cute, nicely. So push your eye through, and let's put our backing on. Okay. Now most people who have safety eyes also have the eye jig. Let's get that first one on there. Sometimes it can be a little difficult. Okay. Then I have my safety eye helper. So I'm going to take this, find this, place it into the hole, and there. And that pushed it down to another notch, and make it so it'll stay in safer. Now, anytime you use safety eyes, please, if you have children that chew on things, please don't give this to them unless you know for a fact you're going to supervise them, because even though these have a safety backing on it and it is hard to put on, sometimes when you put your teeth in and clamp down, it can create the separation between the backing and the plastic on the inside. So I don't recommend these toys for children that chew on things. That's my safety recommendation. Okay, but otherwise it does give it a really cute look. So let's move on to our next row. And our next row is 2 single crochets and a decrease. So let's place our first one in. So this is our repeat, 1, 1, and decrease. Okay, we're going to repeat this all the way around until we get back to the stitch marker. Your last stitch will be a decrease. So we're going to be doing 6 of these decreases, or these repeats. Okay, so continue all the way around, and I'll meet you here. Our next row will have 18 single crochets. So let's mark our first one. And we're going to continue and have 18 single crochets for this row. Our next row will have 1 single crochet and 1 decrease. That is the repeat for this row. 1 single crochet and 1 decrease. Repeat that around. At the end of the row, you'll have 12 stitches. Alright, for this row, we're going to be adding our legs. So let's place 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. So here's 1 and 2. Okay. So we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the third chain 5 double crochets. 1. This is all into the same chain. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Enlarge your loop and come back here to the first one and insert your hook into the loop of the first stitch. Pick up the loop, tighten it, and then take the loop and go through those stitches, and this will create a curve. Over here on the chain 2, we're going to do as we did on the arms. We're going to go under the chain 2, pull up a loop, and complete a single crochet. Tighten it up, and let's do the second one. Okay, so here's our last stitch. We want to go into the next stitch. We'll make sure we get the right ones here. Here's that one, so we want to go into this next stitch. So we're going to go over the next 9 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoops, 6, 7, 8, whoops, I think I will go over 8. I wrote the numbers down wrong. Yep. So over 8 stitches. Now we're going to do another chain 5 for another leg. and 5 double crochets into the 3rd chain from the hook. I say whoops because I hit my GoPro camera. That's what I use to create these videos, so I don't have a big bulky camera in front of me. Okay, here's number 3. Number 4 and number 5. Yeah, sometimes in the filming of videos, your work has to work around your camera stand like mine is doing, and it does kind of get in the way. So we're going to insert the hook into that first stitch. We're going to pick up the loop that we dropped off and pull that loop through that first stitch and come back and do 2 single crochets over the chain, okay, we have 1 single crochet left. Remove your stitch marker. Let's place a slip stitch into the next one, so that'll help it to lay flat. And let's cut about a 12-inch tail. The making of these little hearts is perfect for scrap yarn because it really doesn't take a lot. If you use Parfait Chunky or some of these other smaller yarns, even this one, you could place a keychain on it and use it as a little backpack carrier. Alright, so this is the hole that we have. We're going to place our stuffing inside that hole. Okay, make sure you don't bring your tail in with you. We're going to take and stuff this. I like to take the first bundle and push it right here into the first shape of the heart. And then my second amount I will place into the other side. A lot of people have different ways of stuffing. I feel it's all going to get cramped together, so I don't pull it apart. I don't think also the amounts that I have also bunch up too bad. So here we have our shapes already. Now I'm going to go ahead and stuff some more into the middle. Now, depending on how plump and how firm you want it to be, will also depend on how much stuffing you will use. Okay. After I usually get about this far, sometimes I get in there and separate in the center to pull it out to the sides here. And you notice how it makes it look a little bit more plump. I'll go ahead and add some more here until I'm all the way to the top, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew it closed. So let me add some more here. You want to have your stitches filled out, but not so filled out that you actually see the stuffing through the stitches. Okay, now back here I want to add some more because it's going to be sitting and we want this area to have more. So see how it curves out just a little bit? This is like the butt area. And that's what will help it to sit nicely. Okay, I think that'll help it. And if you want to double check, that's how you double check it. Okay, so let's place our tapestry needle onto our tail here. And what we're going to do is we're going to weave in and out of the top of these stitches. So weaving, and we're going to go you know, behind the tail, or the legs here. Okay. Now don't pull it tight just yet. We want to go in and out. Okay, and we want to make sure that this back area has some sitting room. So if we need to add a little bit more, we can add just a little bit more. Make sure all your stuffing goes in there. Okay, then let's pull it tight. And that closes our stuffing hole. And sometimes I go over this twice to make sure that it stays closed. And then I'm going to come over here. There we go. And I'm going to lock my stitch by just putting an overhand knot. Okay, and then let's come over here. I like to weave in my stitches because I find that if you sometimes make it so that you just find a place and cut it, over a period of time, the stitches, the end piece will have a tendency to come out. So if you weave it into the stitches here, it'll stay in place. And you can't see it. Okay, so let's see how our little guy's going to sit here. If he keeps falling back, like mine was starting to do, even though we tried to make sure everything was right, take your needle, bring it in, and bring your stuffing down towards the bottom here. And that'll help it to have a flat section so that he can sit. Okay? When you first create something and you put stuffing in it, sometimes it's not always 100%. So let's go ahead and thread our needle for our crown, making sure that the yarn comes out through the bottom center. And decide where you would like to place it. On most of mine, I've placed them right here. I could place it over here too. I usually start with the piece in the back. So I'm going to decide where I'd like to have it. Of course, because I'm on camera wanting to show you, this thing wants to slip and slide everywhere. So let's pick up a loop and come under a few stitches, and we're going to pick up about 2 or 3 stitches over. Most of the videos that I've been trying to make lately were of no sew. I know this one we're sewing a crown on, but you'll find that the body is no sew. Yeah, I think I'm going to like that one. We're going to come across a few stitches. We still have our mouth yet to do, but this is how we're attaching the crown. And you want to try and come by about every 2 stitches to help hold it down. Like I said, because I'm on camera, it is just slipping and sliding all over my table. Normally I'd have it in my lap, but I don't think you want to see me working stuff in my lap. Okay. So basically we just tacked it down. Okay, and I'm going to come up over here where we did our first one. And I'm going to do a little overhand knot. So create a loop, bring the needle through it, and we're going to tighten it up, and that'll help hold this in place. Okay, so come over to another place. Okay, so here we have our little guy with his crown on. Let's go ahead and put his mouth on. So I got me a small piece of black yarn, probably about 6 to 8 inches long. We're not going to be doing very much. So we want to insert in between one of the stitches. How you place your smile is your choice. You can place a frown if you want. I hope not though. Okay, so I come up. And remember, each one of these is going to have a different character. So however you choose to make your smile, I'm sure it will look cute any way you do it. Okay. So here, after making my smile, I'm going to tie a square knot. And that'll help hold these places, or these stitches in place. This one's a little long. And then I'm going to take a hook and go in between the stitches and come out where the stitches come out at. And bury these stitches here. What do you think? Is he cute? So, I hope you enjoyed making the crowned heart plushie with me. I know I had fun making it. So, thank you for being here with me. I hope you make plenty of them. They're actually fun to make. Till next time, bye-bye.